Happy New Year. Welcome to the Power of One. I am Melany Nelson, the Executive Director for Northwest Victim Services. This episode of the Power of One will focus on gun violence that is affecting so many mothers and fathers in the city of Philadelphia. Today I will be speaking with Kimberly Kamara, who lost her son to gun violence in July of 2017. Kimberly continues to fight every day, just like many other mothers and fathers are doing to keep their child's legacy alive. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Kim, tell me what happened in the city of Philadelphia on July 4th, 2017.
Just like any ordinary day, we woke up, my son went to work, I was off. Um, I called him once he got off from work and we talked for about an hour. Then I went to a friend's house for the holiday. I called my son about between 9 and 9:30, and we talked again. And I woke him up out of his sleep. Him and his son fell asleep on the back patio. And my next phone call I received was from his fiancee mother saying Naeem has been shot. Get to Roxborough Hospital. And we were out past the airport, so we rushed. And I called my daughter and asked her to meet Naeem at the hospital. She got there and she called me back. And at first, because it was Roxborough, I didn't think it was serious. I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry. Everything is fine. As we were in the car coming back to Philly, she called me and said, Mom, they're going to transfer him to Hanneman. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to keep her calm as she's screaming in my ear. And I'm like, okay, it's still, it's not that bad. And I said, well, let them transport him. We're on our way there. The third phone call, she called me and said, Mom, they're taking him to Temple. And that's when my heart dropped to my feet. We wound up beating the ambulance to Temple. I'm trying to get into Temple, and they have all the security. And I'm trying to explain what's going on, and they're like, he's not here. And I'm like, yes, he is. And I didn't know I had beat him. So I hear an ambulance, and I just run outside, and I'm like, that's my son. The doors flew open. All I see is a doctor sitting on top of him, breathing for him. Doctors around him, and I'm calling them, and I'm touching them, and they're pulling me away from him. And I'm like, Naeem, it's me, it's Mom. Sonny boy, get up. And again, no response. So we all went into the emergency room. The doctors came out and got myself and my husband, took us to this little room and told us to wait. They're going to observe and, do what they can, and then they'll come out and talk to us. That hour seemed like it took forever.
I'm sure.
And we just sat and we talked and we laughed, we cried, and it seemed like as soon as you start trying to feel better, the doctor comes in and just snatch your heart.
Wow.
And he's like, we've done everything. There's one more test that we need to do, but by it being a holiday, we have to send for it. It's over in Jersey, and it won't arrive until tomorrow afternoon. So they said we could go back and see him. So I got everybody out of the waiting room, and we went back. And I had already knew as we were driving up the highway that my son was no longer with us, because I got real hot and then I got real cold. And it seemed like something just went through my heart. And I'm just looking at him as he's sleeping and his heart is beating. Just that his heart is just pumping, and I'm like, this can't be true. My son is still with us. And what messed me up was because his heart, he still had pulse. So the next day finally came, and we had stayed up at the hospital. I left to just let my mom know because I didn't want her to find out on the news.
Right.
Went and got her, waited until she got dressed, and we went back up to the hospital. And my mom sat with him for a little while, and she couldn't take it no more. She left, and I sat with him. We just was camped out at Temple on the ICU floor. When the test came back, they excused us out the room, and the doctors came back and told us he has no brain activity.
Okay, so they were checking for
The brain
activity.
activity.
So was he shot in Roxborough?
He was shot in Germantown, 6400 block of Moylan Street.
Okay, and Roxborough was the closest hospital, so
Exactly.
that's why they took him there.
And they transported him by private vehicle.
Okay, okay, which is important, and I know some people don't understand that.
And I was one of those people.
That
at
didn't
first,
understand it
yeah.
at the time, and sometimes officers will
Transport,
actually
yeah.
scoop a shooting victim
To save a life,
to
yes.
save a life, and they'll put them in. It may be the paddy wagon, it may be the back of the cop car, but sometimes people get upset. But that actually saves so many lives instead of waiting for the ambulance to come.
And again, I did not know.
Yeah.
I did not know this is where we would be at today.
Right. Yeah, which is a shame, but you look
Yeah.
strong, Mom, and
Every day, I tell anybody, you have to push yourself.
yeah,
The biggest part is opening your eyes every morning.
right.
Second biggest part is lifting your head up off that pillow. You do those two things, you push your way through your day. I'm not saying I don't have moments. I have plenty of them. I'm not here to make nothing look easy. I go through it. 4th of July is a big trigger. Holidays are big triggers.
I'm sure.
Birthdays triggers.
Yeah,
Because we was family oriented.
right. And I did hear you say that Neem,
Yeah.
his name is Naeem, but you guys call him Neem. Neem had a son.
Neem has a son, yes.
Okay.
He is now 2. He was named after his father. And I knew that when his father passed, he was 3 months. I knew that one day he would grow up and ask me where his father is. One time I was babysitting him, and it was just me and him in the house, and he bust out crying. I looked at him, I bust out crying, and we looked at each other, and we just had this laugh. We just laughed at each other.
Okay.
I picked him up, and he looked in my eyes, I looked in his eyes, and we just had this connection. And I'm like, I know one day you're going to ask me about, where's my daddy? So that's where I started coming up ways to answer his question the best of my ability.
Right.
And that's where the title of the book came from, Where's My Daddy?
Okay. So, Kim, you actually wrote a book
Yes.
after your son was murdered and trying to be proactive. And when your grandson asks you, where is my daddy?
We can sit down and we read the book. And I use the community as Kyrie is navigating his way through the community. We ask different characters in the book where his father is. And just like any child, we always go outside of home and then we go back to home.
Okay.
So at the end, he asks, Mom, where's my daddy? And the book is geared to any child, any age. It's not just for gunshot victims. It's for anyone who has lost a father.
That's wonderful. Okay. So you actually have 2 books.
So we have a coloring book. So after you talk to the child, and these books are open dialogues, conversational pieces. We can go on adventures with Kyrie through the community, and the child can use his or her imagination with coloring crayons and going through the different scenes of the book.
Okay. Yeah, art therapy is
Absolutely.
wonderful.
And always use this time as communication.
Okay.
And that, again, I've had adults read their book
Okay.
who've lost their father, and they are crying, saying, thank you, you've really answered some questions. And I'm like, I just wrote the book for my grandson.
Right, right.
Never knowing.
That you would touch adults.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's awesome. How many times was Neem shot, and was the person who shot your son apprehended?
So to this day, I have the coroner's report. I have not got up enough nerve to open it up to read it for myself. Um, I picked it up and I opened it and then I just shut it.
Okay,
So I want to say 5 to 6 times.
okay,
I know he was shot in his legs. And then from there, I honestly, I couldn't answer you.
okay.
What was the?
Was the person apprehended?
Oh, at this time, no.
Okay,
His murder remains unsolved. And that's where we do the marches. That's where I use social media to bring awareness. Hopefully, it will spark something in someone's head. Someone will come forward. The city also launched the Unsolved Murders website
okay,
that I ask anybody to utilize, not just for Naeem's murder, but for any murder that you have information about, and the police department. And I know it's so many different false tales out here about it, but the police department has been really friendly with us.
good.
The tips, they follow them through
Right,
because they have families. They want to go home. Nobody wants to be in the middle of a gun fight.
right, right, exactly. And you seem like you're pretty much current about what's going on in the community. Have you heard things on the street, and you don't have to tell me anything that you've heard on the street?
Right.
And when you hear these things on the street, do you take them to the detective so
So,
they can continue their investigation?
of course, and any parent, anybody that wants justice will do the same thing.
Of course, yes.
I never divulge where the information comes from. I want Naeem's case solved just like other parents want their children's case solved. I believe at the end of the day, there's going to be more cases solved once they solve one Germantown case.
Okay, okay.
I believe everything connects the dot.
And it'll fall in line. But see, and then Kim, let's speak to people who are afraid to come forth, which we know this is a major issue because they still have to live in the community. You know what I mean? So people still have to be safe and given that information.
Exactly.
But yeah, you want your child's.
And I tell people to utilize those tip lines because you can remain anonymous.
Okay.
All they're doing is following up on information. There's also witness protection. Just like with anything, you have to put in the work.
Right.
If it's a good lead, yes, they'll want you to testify. Yes, they'll pay for you to relocate. That does not mean once they pay for you to relocate for you to come back. You have to follow the rules of the relocation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And it's so sad, and like, you know, relocation, and people really need to take advantage of that. On January the 2nd, I had to go down to the medical examiner's office to meet with the family. The sad part about it, we're talking about January 2nd, 2020. There were 7 families down there, Kim, that had to identify their loved one. So the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia it's just out of control. And like, where do we begin? What?
At home.
I love it.
You have to
I
begin
love it.
in your own house. Parents have to be parents.
Right, right,
Nothing I gave birth to should be rolling my house.
right, right. I hear you.
You should not be telling me how to roll my house.
Right.
I should know what's coming in my house and going out my house. So parents have to be parents
Right.
and take their house back.
I hear you. Yeah, which is important.
Because
It's extremely important.
we're always looking to put blame. But I'm quite sure if you know your son is smoking weed and the company they're keeping, the hours they're keeping, and they're not working nowhere, but they have the latest everything. They're not even
Something's wrong.
contributing
Right.
to your home.
Right, something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
Right.
And you're allowing it. You're making it okay. So no.
Yeah, so it
And
starts at home.
yeah, and grandparents, come on now.
Right.
First of all, if your child is living, they should have been raising their child. And there are circumstances where the natural parent can't.
Right, right.
But again, parents and grandparents, aunts, uncles should not be held hostage. We should not be afraid of our own children,
I
our
agree.
youth.
Right, I agree. Yes, yeah.
And even the teachers, if you see something wrong with a child, it's okay to report it.
That's true. And there's a lot, I don't want to say there's a lot, but there's some children who are dealing with traumatic incidents, like our children who see these shootings and killings in the neighborhood. And it has become the norm for them, which is sad. And they'll go to school or think about, was Naeem your only baby?
My son, he was my only son.
He's your only son. So think about, you have families where their siblings were murdered and then they go to school and then they start acting out or their grades are slipping. It's for a reason. So like you said, the teachers have to figure out, okay, I just can't suspend you just because you're acting out. I have to figure out and I have to dig deeper to understand what's going on. So sometimes we don't even ask the question, what's wrong or how can I help you?
Right.
Because this is a troubled youth, we have to figure out what's going on. How can I help you? That may be the same for the person who's on the corner. That may be the same for the person who has the gun. I'm not saying you have to forgive that person who murdered your son. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
But something's going on.
Exactly.
With
And I
these
believe
youth,
that.
and we have to figure out what is going on. But are we asking the right questions?
No.
You know what I mean?
We're
How do we
living
help?
in a microwave society.
Right.
Everything, we want instant gratification. And we're not taking the time out anymore to find out what's troubling our youth.
Right.
Look at what happened at Glen Mills. How many of these young men have came out and contribute to these murders?
Yeah.
So it is, it's a vicious cycle.
It is, and that's a shame. Tell me something unique about Neem. When Neem passed away, how did he bless others?
So Naeem was my child that he was a selfless person all his life. He would give anybody. He'd be like, "Oh, Mom, I gave such and such my shirt." Well, why would you do that? I got another one. Okay. He wanted this leather jacket. I bought it for him. I'm going to say a month later, it's gone.
Wow.
I was so hot with him. He's
Yeah.
like, "I'll get another one."
Okay.
But Naeem, when my father passed away, we sat down, and it wasn't a planned sit down. Naeem wanted to discuss his last living will testament. And I'm like, "Boy, if you don't get out of here."
Now, how old was he at this time?
He was 17.
Are you serious?
And he said he wanted his funeral the way I did my dad's. He didn't want people crying. He wanted to have a party. And when he first got his driver's license, he had checked off the box to become an organ donor.
Okay.
And we went back and forth. And I'm telling you, we went back and forth. And I'm like, "You don't do that. You don't check that box off and walk around with it in your pocket."
Right.
And he's like, "It's my body. I can do what I want." And I'm going back and forth. And he like, "All right, Mom, I'm going to take it off. But you got to promise me, if anything happened to me, please let them know I'm an organ donor."
Okay.
And I'm like, "Oh, boy, ain't nothing going to happen." So here I am faced with this dilemma, this trauma, after the doctor tells me there's nothing else they can do for my son. And I say, "Well, he's an organ donor."
Yeah.
If you could have seen everything change, like the whole atmosphere of the room. It was this dark room. All of a sudden, this light just appeared out of nowhere.
Wow.
Um, and the nurses start running in. And I had to sign all this paperwork. And one person can save up to 75 people.
Wow. And how old was Naeem when he actually passed away?
23.
Okay.
So he actually saved 7 people's lives
Wow.
from ages from infant up until 62 years old,
Wow.
which I felt was remarkable.
Right.
And his reasoning for it was, when he not going to need those organs.
Right.
He can give someone else a chance to live.
Mm.
And I was just like, wow. Again, this spoiled brat
Right.
thinking
Right.
about someone else.
At the age of 17, who thinks about somebody at the age of,
I
at the
know,
age of
I know
17?
I
I wasn't
wouldn't.
thinking about nobody
I
but
know I
myself.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
It was about me.
That's right. Yeah.
But that's how Naeem was.
Okay.
He only, if you asked him, can I get $1? I'll give it to you Tuesday at 10 o'clock. Because you said you're going to give it back to him Tuesday at 10 o'clock, Naeem will come look for you Tuesday
Tuesday
at
at
10
10 o'clock.
o'clock.
You're going to give me back my
Now,
dollar.
if you said, can I have it?
He's
Fine.
not. Okay. All right. Special young man. Special young man.
And he just threw it outside the box.
Okay.
Or a science geek.
Was he? Okay. What school did he go to?
He went to Mercy. Then he was down in Atlanta
Oh, okay.
for a little while and came back. So he graduated and took some college courses.
Okay.
And that he at the time he wanted to do, first he wanted to do something with the blood. Then he wanted to do something with plants. I forgot exactly what they call it.
Okay.
But he knew the terminology and all that.
Okay. So tell me what you're doing to keep Naeem's legacy alive. Did you start
So
an agency, or are you trying to start an agency?
we have Never Ending Emotions LLC.
Okay.
We started out as an online community, just on Facebook and on Instagram, and people would comment. You know, I would throw little slogans and sayings up, and people would comment, and we just have conversations around it. Something that goes on, current events that goes on, we post it. We had our first annual Blue Out Gala where we gave out awards last year. So every year we're going to try and do that. We also dress someone for prom from head to toe,
Oh, that's excellent.
male or female.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Because Naeem, like I said, he was always giving back. He always was looking out for the kids less fortunate.
Right.
I remember he came home and was telling me about a young man that he blessed with 2 pair of sneakers because he had holes in the bottom of them.
Oh, wow.
And that was just 3 years ago,
Okay.
right before he passed. That's who he was.
And that's excellent.
So we're trying to keep that legacy alive. Also, any young man that needs clothing to go on job interviews, we want to start dressing them for success.
That's excellent.
Because Naeem made like a whole 360. He was the kid, that hard-headed kid. At one point, you tell him to park his car, he double park it in front of your door, loud music playing,
Okay.
saggy pants.
Okay.
Then it was like, Mom, I did it my way and messed up. I want to do it the right way.
Well, that's good.
Can you take
Yeah.
me shopping for a belt?
Oh, that's
So
excellent.
we went and got him some belts, some khakis and all. Next thing I know, he working full-time at Lord & Taylor's.
Okay. Okay.
So
that's excellent. Talk to me really quickly about the saggy pants. See, I'm old school, and we didn't do that. Like my husband, when I met him, my husband was 17, I was 15. Well groomed though. He wore Bill Blast. I mean, he was sharp. You hear me? Silk shirt, but 17 had it buttoned all the way down, had his little chest showing, walked with a cane, looking good, smelling good. You know what I'm saying? So it's different. Tell me real quickly about how you dealt with that with your son, seeing that.
I
being
will
different
pull his
from what you-
pants up.
I know that's right, Mom.
Here go a belt. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't have a belt. Here go one. I
Yeah.
buy him the cheapest cloth belt.
Okay, okay.
Put it on.
Yeah.
Because was going to Catholic school. Put this belt on.
Right.
You didn't come from a household like that.
Right. But you know what? He was out in the community, and you have to fit in the community. I guess if you
Because
don't
you
want to be
can't be that
bullied.
nerdy,
Exactly.
geeky
Is that
guy.
not deep? Yeah.
So
So
when
that's
he
something.
got away from me, he would sag his pants.
That's something. That's something that our kids have to do this to fit in and for them not to be picked on or to be bullied. So around mom, I'm going to be a certain way, which is great because that's a sign of respect.
But I want you
then
to
when
be
I get
that
at
way.
right, I agree. But then when mom ain't around and I got to walk and these guys are around, then I'm going to have to do what I got to do to survive.
And the young men of today were not taught that. A lot
I
of
agree.
them.
Yeah.
They don't know how being dressed make them look,
Right.
let alone make them feel. Their self-esteem
Exactly.
rises.
Right. That's true. Because I have two sons who are 23 and 25. So my 25-year-old, I get on him. I'm like, where you going? Like, clean that up. My 23-year-old, he likes to dress. So he likes to look good and he has locks. So every time he's going through his hair with his hand with his locks. So it's different. So it's really different. But I let them know that every time you walk out that door, you need to look good, smell good, and carry yourself respectfully.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And you
have
are
to.
someone.
That's right.
Because our young men don't think they are anybody.
Yeah, or that somebody loves you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and that's what we got to do too, extend hugs. Yeah, so, but I want to thank you so much
Thank you for
for
having
coming
me.
on the show. I thank you so much. Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Power of One. If you were a victim of a crime, or if you know someone who was a victim of a crime, and the crime occurred in the northwest section of Philadelphia, please contact me directly at 267-808-0350. Gun violence has become a public health crisis in the city of Philadelphia, and this urgent issue requires all of us to work together to ensure that this gun violence stops. Please know you are important, you are special, and you are unique. Your voice matters, and you could be the one to change the world. The power of one starts with you. Thank you for joining us.